This Cincinnati Reds lineup can win the NL Central.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Jeff. He's Steve. And on today's Locked On Reds podcast, a little bit later on, we're going to tell you why the Reds are giving away something that we have never heard of. This Saturday, whenever the Braves come to town. In just a few minutes, we will look at why the Mets stand as Exhibit A to why the Reds spend what they spend on their roster, for better or for worse. But we will begin with this Reds lineup and the renaissance that it's gone through and the changing of the month. We've talked about how bad the bullpen's been in the month of May, though that's starting to look better. Yet another game without any walks. This lineup, on the other hand, Steve, has absolutely flipped the script. In the month of April, I'll start with this. And after another game in which they absolutely demolish the New York Mets, they are now averaging 4.78 runs per game in the month of May. They averaged 4.29 runs per game in the month of April. I believe that we are seeing the right guys getting right, and this is real, and this is exactly what they need.
You know how interesting the narrative is right now, Jeff? Those numbers you just threw out, they're scoring more runs than they did in May versus April. The difference was they won so many 1- and 2-run games in April with the bullpen playing way over its head. And because things kind of flipped, we got all panicky there for a minute. But it's fun to look at this lineup right now. And you look at yesterday's game against the Mets and you go down the lineup. Elly with multiple hits, Sal Stewart with multiple hits, Gino with multiple hits, Dane Myers with multiple hits, Bleday with multiple hits, and the man, the myth, the legend, Tyler Stephenson, who I was ready to give up for dead, multiple hits.
Looking
These
good.
Guys are hitting the ball. I love to see it. It's fun. I think you said it best in your Twitter X post yesterday during the game that Chris Valleca's good now, right?
The most overblown narrative in all of baseball is what a hitting coach does for the lineup, because he gets all of the blame when they're bad and none of the credit when they're good. I low-key trolled Twitter a little bit with that post, and it was interesting to see the responses, because I still believe that there are multiple people that are reasonable enough to understand that the talent in the lineup, when they go, it doesn't matter who the hitting coach is. And so I love to see that this lineup is doing what it's doing, because you've got all these dudes up and down that are performing in big ways. And one of the things that they did so well on Tuesday night was they hit with 2 outs. The clutch hits with 2 outs absolutely sank the New York Mets. There were 2 separate occasions where you had Eugenio Suarez come up and do this, and then you had Elly De La Cruz come up and do this, where with 2 outs, they hit a 2-run double. A lot of 2s in there, but when it comes to how the Reds played, it just kind of felt like all of the clutch was happening. And kind of as we mentioned, where the bullpen sort of fell off in the month of May, now that the lineup's going, it's like 2 ships passing in the night. And as they always say, when it comes to baseball, you don't want to be playing your best baseball right now. So yes, we do want to see this Reds team all come together, because that hasn't happened just yet. But as they keep getting there, as they keep taking steps, as they keep climbing up the ladder that is the 2026 season, we are starting to see the things fall into place that need to fall into place.
Yeah, there were a lot of 2s there, but you're right. Doubles from Stephenson, Suarez, and De La Cruz, multiple RBIs from those 3 guys as well. Mm-hmm. And you look at the impacts of that. They had a 5-0 lead after 4. So they gave Chase Burns 5 runs to play with. And the way he has pitched this year, that's all he needs. I know his ERA jumped to an awful 1.96 after giving up a couple runs.
Shut up.
Skyrocketed. But Chase Burns with 5 runs, you feel like you're going to win that game. And I love that we've got the lineup starting to cook to a point where we can think that way, because that's been missing for a little while. And to see timely hitting, to see multiple run scoring on extra base hits, more than just the little slap singles, extra base, gap power kind of stuff. balls to the wall kind of hits. Yeah, I heard it too, folks. I heard it when I said it. But those type of hits are really what this offense has been lacking. And
it's what we want, right?
See them turning a quarter is what we want.
That's what we want. That's what we want for the lineup. And one of the other fun things about how they have played this season, Steve, is that last year, and really for the last couple of years, we've basically said, if you, yes, you can throw some sort of projectile with your left hand, you could probably get this Cincinnati Reds lineup out. That's not the case this season. In fact, they're actually better against lefties than they are against righties right now. They addressed that in the offseason by adding in Dane Myers. And of course, Eugenio Suarez being a right-handed hitter doesn't hurt. But all of that brings together this lineup now that doesn't have that big hole where if a team goes to its lefties, you're just done. Because that's really all that the Mets did in this game. I mean, you had Peterson, you had Manaea, you had Mentor, you had all these guys coming in that threw from the left side of the mound, and the Reds were still just teeing off on them. Now, not teeing off to the point that they were hitting multiple homers, but they did the thing that the Reds did last year, the Reds lineup did last year, whereas they strung hits together, which was all we heard last year was, well, this team's got to rally to win. They rallied all day and then some in this game. And I find it intriguing, too, like sprinkling in with this lineup. You mentioned Chase Burns, how the confidence that he had. I would have liked to have seen him go 6. He gave up 3 straight hits in the 6th inning, including a 2-run homer to Juan Soto, which, I mean, it's Juan Soto. The third time a guy's facing Juan Soto, you kind of figure Juan Soto is going to do something to them because he is an all-world hitter. But the other 2 hits were singles. I kind of would have loved to have seen him finish out the inning, whatever, neither here nor there because nothing was heard afterward. But ultimately, this lineup provided him with the kind of cushion that if he gets this, I dare say there's not a situation where he's going to lose a game where he has this kind of run support.
Yeah, and I don't mind that they took him out when they took him out, Jeff. He was already at 90 pitches. And, you know, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about start thinking about prolonging the shelf life of Chase Burns towards October. I'm okay with when they took him out of this game. One thing about the lineup that you didn't hit on, but that I do want to mention, only one guy in the game for the Reds yesterday was not on base multiple times, at least twice during this game. The only guy that wasn't on twice was Matt McLain. He did reach with a single. Everybody else was on at least twice, including hitless Spencer Steer, who drove 2 walks in this game. So everybody was getting on base. So it's the doubles are great and driving in the runs and all that stuff, but the table has to be set. And these guys were getting on base, and I love it.
Not to be outdone, though, Matt McLain's single was the most perfect bunt in the history of bunts. It was clearly meant to be a sacrifice. It was not a drag bunt, but it went down the third base line, and it stopped right before the line because David Peterson, the pitcher for the Mets, just was like, he was doing the thing where he's shadowing. He's like, it's going to go foul. It's going to go foul. It's going to go foul. Never went foul. Most perfect bunt I ever saw, which loaded the bases. And then, of course, right after that, Blake Dunn grounds to do a double play.
That tells me somebody on the Flushing grounds crew didn't get something right because those guys need to know how that ball is going to break.
Yeah, it was crazy to see that. But no, I feel confident in what this Reds lineup is putting out there. Something that in April, I was telling everybody this lineup's getting unlucky. Wait for them to break out. This lineup's getting unlucky. Wait for them to break out. And now one of the things that is true about them is that their luck is starting to turn around as a team. Their batting average on balls in play is approaching the league average level, still slightly below it, but still, closer to it than it was last month. And then the other part of this is they have pruned some of the players that just are not performing for them. And I feel like that is a very important thing as well. So ultimately the lineup is setting a good example for this team. Steve, there was a guy that they could have added this offseason. You really didn't want to do it. I kind of waffled a little bit, but it's clear that the Reds made the right decision to not add Luis Robert. However, I feel like the Mets also stand as an interesting example to one ownership group that runs the Cincinnati Reds. The NHL playoffs are here, where every shift matters, every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. And just like performance matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters most. Their top option, Rugiet Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. And they also offer Go Long, designed to help with both performance and control. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rugiet, performance medicine for men.
Thanks for being an everydayer, and thanks for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. We appreciate you. You already live this team every single day. Elevate your game. Go ads-free with Locked On Reds, the ads-free version over in the audio channel. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer. $5 a month, $50 a year. You're going to get the ad-free version of Locked On Reds, and you're going to get access to the exclusive Discord server where every single host from every single show on every single channel of the Locked On Network is in there talking ball. Listen, you will not run out of sports to talk about on the Locked On Discord server. Check that out. The link for it is down in the show description. All right, Jeff, you spent quite a bit of time. Now, you did waffle towards the end there, but you spent quite a bit of time over the last couple seasons singing the virtues of Luis Robert. And I was a hard no from the start. I stayed a hard no, continued to be a hard no, was never not a hard no. You know why? Because I knew this was what was going to happen with him, which is what the Mets are going through right now. He was injury prone. He could not put together a healthy season. I did not want him. That has bared out a little bit now. So I'm glad the Reds did not go get him. But you were making a point that, you know, if ever there was an organization that your good friend Phil Castellini could point to as to why he likes to operate the way that he does, it would be the Flushing Mets.
Yeah, and because of Luis Robert, he's part of this, not simply just Luis Robert, but Luis Robert is part of this, where the Mets are spending over twice what the Reds are spending. And if you look at Major League Baseball, because of its lack of a salary cap, you don't have to limit your spending. Some teams do, some teams don't. The Mets have decided they're fine with the luxury tax that is put upon them every single season based on the fact that they are spending so much money. The only team that spends more than them is the Dodgers. And honestly, it's not really that big of a gap. Like the Dodgers are over $400 million. I think they're at like 410 according to Spot Track, and the Mets are at 389 million. Like that's pretty close. But with all of that being said, we have seen how the Mets have played these last 2 days. And if you've watched any sort of social media videos so far this year, if you've seen any highlights so far this year, you know that what we have seen as Reds fans isn't really that far off. And Luis Robert is 22 million of 116 total $1 million in contracts that is currently on the injured list for the Mets right now. He is on the injured list, and he just got placed on the 60-day IL yesterday, so he's going to be out for a while. He's also on there with Francisco Lindor, who's making $34 million. He has a calf issue that they said that he has no timetable for his return. And then, oh, by the way, let's add in the fact that all of this good feelings that we got from the Reds lineup on Tuesday night came against two pitchers mostly, in David Peterson and Sean Manaea, who are making a combined $31 million between the two of them. Sean Manaea, Steve, I think topped out at 90 on his sinking fastball. He was throwing some cut fastballs at 83 miles an hour. Like Chase Burns had to be over in the other dugout going, my slider ain't that slow. Wait, what's going on over there? I think it's crazy that the Mets have spent this much money and they are this bad to the point that I don't think that there's, if somehow a Mets fan stumbled into our podcast today, are we wrong? Like, I think they completely agree with us right now. They're horrible.
Yeah, it's about allocation of resources. And, it does go to show that you can spend oodles of Cohen's money, but you still have to go and get good players. And this is where the Dodgers have broken with all the cheat codes, right? This is where the Dodgers finally put together, because they spent all the money, but they also got all the good players. They went out and got the top guy at every position all the way across the board for multiple years and got the deferrals and did all the things to get the A+ cream of the crop dudes in there. And then you have guys like Cohen and the Mets and their front office group that took the same money and tried to go get the next best guy and the next best thing. And it hasn't quite played out the same way. Now, to your hypothesis that there are those within the Reds front office, including the ownership group, that will look at the New York Mets and say, see, this is why you don't need to go out and spend $350 million. Now, I could see a lane where there might be an organization that does that. I am telling you that this organization that we follow every single day, the Cincinnati Reds and your good friend Phil, are not giving two hoots about what anybody else is doing, because the Reds don't run the front office that way. Well, how the Reds run this front office is the Castellinis sit down in a room and they look across the table at each other and they say, all right, Pops, what are we comfortable with spending this year? What do you think? 120, 125? Yeah, it sounds about right. Cool. And they get on the phone and they're like, hey, Nicky, what's up? Yeah, 125. That's your number. Go crazy, kid. And that's it. That's the extent that the Castellinis pay attention to what is going on in baseball. Nick Krall then takes his budget and goes and shops. They don't care what the Mets are doing. They really don't care what the Dodgers are doing. All as they care is that they're still making their profits. They're still getting their cut of the national money from Major League Baseball, and that you guys are all showing up for the bobbleheads. That is the only thing that matters to the Castellini family.
We'll get into the bobbleheads here in a minute, but no, I think it's intriguing because it's hard to argue with on that. Like, there was a discussion and when things were going really bad here at the beginning of May, there were a lot of people that were trying to like start to pass some sort of final verdict on the roster that Nick Krall had built. And I was kind of sitting back. I'm like, it's early, guys. We got to see. Gino's going to come back. He's going to be okay. We got to see how this all plays out. I'm not going to jump into this conversation right now, but I was kind of watching the points that were being made, and everybody was just like, it's clear that Nick Krall doesn't know what he's doing, and they got to go get somebody that does. Well, they're not going to do that, because Nick Krall does know what he's doing based on the parameters that are set forth to him by his bosses, by his managers. Because like you said, and I agree with you on this, it is clear that they operate with a different set of principles than other ball clubs. Because the weird thing about what the Mets are doing with all of this money, Steve, they hired a guy from Milwaukee to run their front office. It's not as if Steve Cohen found a buddy of his and promoted him because he knew him, or there was some guy who was working for the Mets for 150 years, and they said, well, obviously he needs to be the general manager because he's been here forever. They didn't do that. They went out and they found the teams that know what they're doing, and they added somebody from that team. However, it's still not working out. They're still not doing the right things. It's funny how that works. The whole point here being, though, Steve, is that I think it's interesting to compare the payrolls on an apples-to-apples basis for us. But that's not what the people in charge are doing.
Nope. And they're not going to. And I really am interested when all of the dust settles after the next CBA, if this is a different conversation. I'm really interested to see if we land in a place where this becomes a whole different narrative, because right now there is no motivation, no motivating factor for the Castellinis or for guys that own the Kansas City Royals and guys that own, teams that are playing in areas formerly known as Oakland and all of these places. There's no motivation for them to give a hoot what Steve Cohen is doing. There's no impact.
Tinfoil hat for just a moment. We're not going to go too crazy on this, but tinfoil hat for just a moment. Is this on purpose? Is the Mets on purpose?
Yes.
That fits the narrative. Like, they're like, well, why do we need a salary cap? Because clearly you can spend whatever you want and still be horrible. Look at the Mets. Now that's the rest of the league saying that. That's not just the Castellinis. That's different from the point that we were making. But I kind of thought about that a little bit, where like I saw something the other day where I think it was Ken Rosenthal wrote something about the fact that the current division leaders are like perfectly split amongst the payroll levels. Like there are some really high level ones like the Yankees and the Dodgers, which I think the Rays overtook the Yankees. So that flipped that. And then there are some that are low and all this other stuff. And so it all evens out. And so they don't need to worry about a salary cap. Don't do that. I don't know. It's
here's the
head
argument.
Off. That was just my thought.
We'll save a lot of this for the off season for when we're talking about this, but just to plant this seed, Jeff Carr, what I think it is, it's on purpose, but it's on purpose to demonstrate a bookend, right? $400 million Dodgers, almost unbeatable. Almost $400 million Mets, terrible. But you've got the two bookends. And I think this is going to be to create the conversation for the need for parity to bring everybody to the middle like the National Football League and create a set of financial rules where everybody's spending about the same money and can retain their players. And everybody has a shot every single year of making the playoffs because we have parity. I think that's what's on purpose.
So it's on purpose, but it's not to torpedo the point. It's to accentuate. Okay.
It's to accentuate. Yep.
I can live with that. All right, let's switch gears though, because we haven't talked a lot about this so far this season, but the Reds have had some interesting promotions as of late, and it's culminating this Saturday with the Braves coming to town and the Reds giving away something that I have never heard of. Thank you for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. You can keep the conversation going with us after the show is over. You can follow me on X and on TikTok at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. You can follow Steve at S. Offenbaker over on X. That's with 2 Fs. And you can follow the show at Locked On Reds everywhere you get your podcast. By the way, coming up tomorrow, we're going to wrap up the series. Going to see, I haven't heard back from him just yet. Going to see if Ryan Finkelstein from Locked On Mets wants to join us. He might not. And look, I don't blame him if the Reds end up sweeping him. He's probably not going to want to talk to him. But we'll see if we can get his perspective on this, because I want to get his thoughts on what we just talked about with, like they're paying a lot of money over there. But Steve, I want to shift gears a little bit, because we don't talk a lot about the promotions. The Reds give away a lot of promotions to draw people into the games and things like that. Some of us wish that those promotions were winning baseball teams, but at the same time, there are other things that they can give to us fans. And on Saturday, I'm going to try to read this out because it's interesting, and I get this mixed up every time I try to say it. On Saturday, they're giving away the Spencer Steer bobble card. It's a unique, and this is words I am reading specifically from the Reds website. Unique baseball card bobblehead to fans in attendance while supplies last. Steve, what are we getting if we go on Saturday?
Don't know. I'm looking at pictures. And it looks like maybe it's a bobble with a card background so that it looks like a 3D card with a bobblehead. I don't know. This also could very well be just like a bobblehead taped to a card, much like where they gave us a sticker for the schedule instead of the magnet, and you can just do your own assembling of a Spencer Steer. I don't know, because it sounds to me like the bobble, just the head, would be cheaper than the bobble, and that is very much on brand with the Castellini giveaway. So I don't know. I don't know what this is.
And for clarification, I did type into Google, okay, Spencer Steer bobblehead card. I figure maybe let's spell it out a little bit more. Let's see what the Google AI spits back. It says the Spencer Steer baseball card bobblehead, a third different way to call this thing, is a limited edition stadium giveaway from the Cincinnati Reds. The unique collectible presented by Skyline Chili features a lifelike 3D player image in front of a baseball card backing. But again, 3D image. Is this a picture of a bobblehead on a card?
Jeff, I hope it's a picture of a bobblehead. I really hope it is.
Because at this point, the Reds have given away so many bobbleheads.
Can it please be a picture? Can it please be a picture of a bobblehead? Because we'll have material for days.
Chat, please, if you go to the ball game on Saturday, please let us know. Like, send us a picture on Twitter or something like this. Because I don't have tickets. I've got some stuff going on this weekend, and Steve's still in Hawaii, so he's not going to be there either. We got to see what this thing looks like, because I have looked and I've looked, and I saw commercials during the game on MLB TV, and all of them have this picture. It's not like them holding it and showing you what it is. It's just a picture on a flat screen. And so to me, it looks like a picture of a bobblehead. And so are we going to go away from you get a bobblehead to now you get something based on a real bobblehead? This is, based on a true bobblehead. I think that's not it. That sounds so bad. That cannot be it.
Please let this be that, like,
cannot be it.
Please let this be that Phil used his iPhone and took a picture of a bobblehead and they just printed off like 15,000 of those puppies. I really need for that to be. You know what else I want to know? Who got the gold Ke'Bryan Hayes injured list limited edition bobblehead?
You said you saw it on eBay.
I just looked on eBay and I see one listed for 500 real life American dollars. 500 real life American dollars. I see one listed right now. Now, the regular version, the regular old Ke'Bryan injured list bobblehead doll is $27.99. So there's a little bit of a price difference, but are bobbleheads still a thing? Listen, everydayers, get into the comment section. I need to know, do we still care about the bobbles? Because I don't really. Do we care?
This is I would love to hear what people have to say about that. I have some fun bobbleheads, but I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, I have the bobbleheads that I have. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to go too crazy. And honestly, when you go to the ballpark on bobblehead days, just get there early, and have all of the patience in the world, because it's going to take you a while to get into the stadium. I do want to ask you this, though, Steve, going back to the Ke'Bryan Hayes bobblehead for a minute. The gold one on eBay that is listed for $500. Over, under, which is higher? That price on eBay for that bobblehead, or the number of hits that Ke'Bryan Hayes has in his career?
Oh boy, I want to cheat and look, but this feels like a 6 of one, half dozen another. I'm going to take the 500 American dollars over the amount of Ke'Bryan Hayes hits.
Thankfully, thankfully the hits are more than that price, but he has 608 career hits, and that bobblehead price is $500. Look, scarcity. I understand scarcity and collectibles and things like that, but at the same time,
who's paying $500 for this? I don't know.
No, and I really hope they gave Ke'Bryan like a all gold bobblehead. I mean, he got a gold glove. I'm sure he could care less about a bobblehead, but but at the same time,
I know whose Christmas card list we're not on this year. Let me tell you what.
We're not on Ke'Bryan's, that's for sure. But like, when it comes to promotions, I think it's interesting because the Reds have all these different ones, and like as you look forward into the future, you can see in June they've got an Andrew Rabbit bobblehead whenever Arizona comes to town, and all this other stuff. The Bats promotion the other day that they had, and this is in the past, but where it was the nothing promotion. I think it was the Bats. Was the Bats the Lookouts?
Silence. It was the Bats.
The Bats. The Nothing Day. Nothing. Where it was just baseball. I don't even think they had music.
They had no boards. They had no music. They had no announcer. They had no sound system. They had no walk-up, nothing. It was you could hear the players on the field talking.
Are we like in the range of get off my lawn if I'm saying that I love that?
Listen, welcome.
I feel like we're close.
I've got t-shirts, buddy. Welcome.
I feel like I'm close when I say, oh my gosh, I wish I could have went and seen that. Like that would have been a lot of fun. That would be really interesting at a ball game. Like, I love all the little in between stuff. I'm not saying that I don't love that. The
only thing that would have made that better is I wish that they would have given out scorebooks to all the fans in attendance and like encourage people to keep score, because that's an art that we're losing. I would have loved that to have been an element of that.
Our friend Cam Miller over at the Reds Hall of Fame Museum once said that there should be like a old timey day, like you dress up like old timey fans and like you have like the hat,
did that as a matter of fact,
coat and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't own one. I'd have to go get like a sport coat and things like that. But like old timey baseball. going back and doing that would be an interesting promotion. I love the different things that the Reds do to get people to the ballpark, and I think that there's a lot of Reds fans though that have gotten fatigued from that in years past, where it's just like it feels like, and these are separate entities that work on this, but they feel as though there's been more work put into the promotional schedule than into the planning of the roster. And so that's where that fatigue has come from. And hopefully this is the year that tips, because obviously they made the playoffs last year, but like, I don't know, man. Like, we're starting to get into this realm of, are we just keeping guys up here on the roster for their bobblehead day? Like, when that is the conversation.
Sure felt like why Key Brian Hayes was around as long as he was.
That is an embarrassing conversation to have. And they do have, you know, we've got a Geno bobblehead later on in the year. Like I mentioned, the Abbott bobblehead in June. I don't think either one of those guys are in danger of being sent down. But yeah, man, like, I do love a good promotion, but at the same time, a nothing day sounds kind of cool. But yeah, go get yourself a bobblehead card, baseball card, bobblehead.
Listen,
Spencer
guys,
Steer's gonna do it.
If this is a picture of a bobblehead, I need you all to blow up social media. I need this. I need for this to be a picture of a bobblehead.
There needed to be way more marketing about this than there is.
Get us out of here. Get us out of here.
All we know is it's weird. But thanks so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. We'll be back with you wrapping up this Mets series tomorrow and getting you set. I have an interesting question. We've got Hunter Green with a bullpen session. We're going to look at how that affects this rotation moving forward and why that could actually help with this whole Chase Burns innings conundrum as we move through the season. That's coming up on tomorrow's Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure that you're following us right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app or wherever you listen to us. Now, make sure you go check out Locked On MLB, 3 different shows every single day covering the league with 3 different angles. You can't beat that kind of coverage, man. That's from the #1 Locked On or Sports Locked On podcast network in the country. Thanks so much for helping us make it that way, because you know that Steve and myself, well, we're going to be Locked On Reds every single day.
Listen, keep the bobbles and give me more summer concert series. Just give me a
maybe
concert.
The card bobbles.
It's just 3, 2, 1 Tuesday is going to become pictures of Kona Brew. That's what's going to happen. Like, we're just going to give out pictures of everything. Like $3 picture of Big Wave. That's what's going to happen.
Is this what NFTs are?
That maybe. You know, that would track. The Reds are like a decade behind. They're a decade behind.
No idea what those are. No idea what those are.